Behold, I create new heavens and a new earth, and the former shall not be remembered, nor come into mind. But be ye glad and rejoice forever in that which I create. For behold, I create Jerusalem a rejoicing, and her people a joy. And I will rejoice in Jerusalem, and joy in my people. And the voice of weeping shall be no more heard in her, nor the voice of crying.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakwadash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards younger brothers. And peace and blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect out there pushing his word in truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful elect, the believers, the listeners whom have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. All right, and what I want to get into today, is dealing with the book of St. John, chapter 15 and verse 18. All right, and when you read it, it states, if the world hate you, you know that it hated me before it hated you. Okay, so this world, all right, as we understand, this age, all right, and in this context is speaking of, the world of Israel, because there's a difference, between the 1/3 and the 2/3. Okay, because dealing with the 1/3, that's why Yahweh Shai said, that we'll be hated by all men for his name's sakes. Okay, so when you go into, of course, the rivalry that we have with Esau, okay, then the rivalry we have with these heathens, and then even amongst our own people, there's a 2/3, okay, that's going to have hatred for the 1/3, okay, and that's part of that cup, all right, of hatred, that we will have to take on, as we follow Yahweh Shai, we follow the Lamb, as part of that cup, that he promised, we will have to drink, just that all around hatred, okay. So when you read this again, it says the world hate you, you know that it hated me before it hated you. Yeah, because the hatred in this society is geared towards Yahweh Shai. See, the elites, okay, they have conditioned, okay, this age, okay, to hate Yahweh Shai. Okay, this is a very anti-Messiah society. And amongst that, you have 2/3 of our people, who have been conditioned to be just completely degenerate. Okay, and Yahweh Shai said, they that hate me love death. And we see that our people, they glorify in death. Okay, that's a culture to them. You see? So going back, when you go into the scriptures, we have to understand, that the hatred that our people have for us is really hatred towards Yahweh Shai. Okay, which they've been cultivated to be anti-Messiah in this society. We all were cultivated, okay, but we was chosen out of this world, all right, of the cosmos of Israel, okay, to be likened unto Yahweh Shai. You see, so the thing that Esau has cultivated, okay, this age to be against, we're becoming. So this society, hated Yahweh Shai way before it hated us. Okay, that's why I say let's go here. Revelation chapter 11. All right, Revelation 11. And 8. It says, in their dead bodies, all right, and the dead bodies represents Israelites in a spiritually dead state, okay, shall lie in the street of the great city, all right, which is spiritually called Sodom and Egypt, where our Lord was crucified. You see that? And this is speaking of America, which is spiritually Egypt, all right, and Sodom, Okay, and there's no explanation of why this place is called Sodom. Okay, but you go into the customs and the traditions of Egypt. You know, a lot of them, okay, are linked, to America. Okay, which these Edomites, they always, idolize, the ancient Egyptian priesthood and left hand magic. Okay, so in this place, all right, which we know is America, it spoke about the Lord being crucified, which we know he wasn't physically crucified here. Okay, spiritually he was X'd out, crossed out. Okay, the teachings of righteousness, the ways, the doctrine of Yahushua, the standard of Yahushua. This is the place where it's been crossed out in the earth the most. You see? So before, because America is founded, in Satanism, Freemasonry. Okay, the Enlightenment, which is a complete anti-Messiah, doctrine. Okay, so this age, was groomed, to be anti-Messiah. You see, so the hatred that we get, is based on a hatred for Yahushua, because we're conforming to Yahushua. You see, so when we go back to the book of St. John chapter 15, okay, read 18 again, said the world hate you, ye know that it hated me before it hated you. If you were of the world would love his own. Okay, and see, we're not of this, we're not of the 2/3. Of course we're not of, because the 2/3 are just an extension of this age. Okay, they're just a degenerate sect, okay, of this age, of Esau's rulership. Okay, and we're not of that. We were in darkness, but we, were pulled out. Okay, through the grace of Yahweh Bashim Al-Shah, through the preaching of his word. It says, but because you are not of the world, but I have chosen you out of the world, therefore the world hated you. Yeah, so the spirit of Yahushua, all right, is searching through Israel, and this is scrapulating, all right, the elect, is removing the elect from darkness. Okay, which, as the scriptures say, what does it do? It makes us a prey. All right, let's go to Isaiah 59. All right, this is the book of Isaiah 59 and verse 15. All right, it said, yeah, truth faileth. And they're speaking amongst our people, man. Our people operate in our people don't operate in the truth in any capacity, man. Everything, amongst black culture, so-called black people, so-called Negroes and Native Americans, Latinos, okay, the tribes, you see, it's all dysfunction and darkness, man. There's no truth amongst our people, man. It's just a corrupt, ass backwards, all right, culture, or the lack thereof. Okay, so truth has completely failed amongst Jake. They don't know who they are. They don't know who their power is. They don't know what family is. They don't know, anything about structure, order, a nation. They no truth is there. They don't know who Esau is. They just, it's just a people that's here, as the scriptures say, born in vain. Okay, so truth has completely failed amongst our people, man. Okay, and it says, and he that departed from evil, making himself a prey, and the Lord saw it, and it displeased him that there was no judgment. You read this in the NLT. Yes, truth is gone, and anyone who renounces evil is attacked. Because as we come into Yahushua, we begin to announce the evils of this anti-Messiah society. And as we renounce those evils, we become a prey. We become the black sheep of the family, the black sheep at work. You see, we renounce the things, all right, that they call a culture. These wicked uh, holidays, all right. You see, the way that they eat, okay, their culture of adultery, okay, the music, okay, the niggas that they idolize, we begin to condemn the things that they idolize, which we used to idolize. We condemn where we become a prey. Okay. So as we have renounced evil to follow Yahushua, we become a prey amongst this world, this age, man. Okay, amongst Israel, amongst our people. You see, because they're of this world, they're of this age. You see, it says the Lord looked and was displeased to find that there was no justice, man. And that's why Yahushua is coming to execute ultimate judgment in the earth, man. You see, Yahushua is coming to set things right in righteousness, man. And that's why, it's an honor and a privilege and a gift that the Lord gave us a spirit, to begin to correct ourselves in righteousness, man. Okay, because Yahushua, the ultimate corrector, is on the way. All right, if that's a word. You see? So let's go back to St. John 17. Yahushua prayed for us, man. He knew we would wake up in this age, okay, and come into this resistance. St. John 17:13, it says, and now I come to thee. This is Yahushua praying to the Father. And these things I speak in the world, that they might have my joy fulfilled in themselves. Okay? That they might have my joy fulfilled in themselves. So now our joy comes from the gospel, the good news. Okay? You see, there was a time when we were chasing joy in this world, through the flesh. Okay? But as we've been converted, all right, now our joy comes from the gospel, the good news, what's to come, what the Lord is getting ready to do. You see? All right, our joy doesn't come from this world. It comes from what the Lord is getting ready to do. Okay? And it says, I have given them thy word, and the world have hated them because they are not of the world, even as I am not of the world. Yeah, so there's going to be a natural tension, between those that follow Yahushua and those that don't. There's going to be a natural animosity, amongst our people, because we have conflicting interests. We have conflicting ideologies, okay, and doctrines and understandings and reasoning, okay? And no matter, how woke our people think they are, if they're not in Yahushua, where it's going to come to a point where the doctrine is going to conflict. Okay? Because a lot of people, even our people that's fed up, or complaining about this current world, well, they still wanted to continue. They just want a better deal. Okay? They just want a better deal under Esau. Nah, we talking about eradicating, all right, the annihilation of this whole power structure, this whole government, slavery of the heathens, man. Okay, the throne of David. See, when you get into that, okay, then we begin to separate ourselves from the reasoning, okay, of this generation of Israelites, man, this cosmos. Okay, and Yahushua, he was not of, all right, the 2/3. The 2/3 was at odds with him. He was not of their reasoning, their mindset. That's why they conspired with Rome to what? Put him to death. Okay? Because Yahushua was not of that age. Okay? And he wasn't of, of that cosmos. Okay? Of the wicked Israelites back then. You see? Because that's who conspired to have them put to death was wicked niggas, okay, and the Romans. You see? And it says, I pray not that thou shouldest take them out of the world, but thou shouldest keep them from the evil. They are not of the world, even as I am not of the world. Okay? So Yahweh Shai prayed for us to be kept from the evil, okay, of this age, even amongst, our own people. Okay, which our people have become a terror unto themselves, man, and wisdom is preserving us. Wisdom is keeping us out of the way. You see? So Yahweh Shai prayed, that we would be kept, because he knew that there was going to be, a conflict, there was going to be tension, because we came back, to him, as we follow him in the world that's the enemy of him. You see? So going here, because there's just a difference between, all right, the 1/3 and the 2/3. Okay? Go here. It's the book of Numbers 14, chapter 20. Now this is when, Jake, gave that faithless report. His the spies were sent out. Okay. And they came back, with those faithless reports, and the Most High was pissed. But you had Caleb and Joshua, they was ready to take the city. They had faith. All right. It said, but as truly as I live, all right. It says, verse 20 says, and the Lord said, I have pardoned according to thy word, but as truly as I live, all the earth shall be filled with the glory of the Lord, because all those men which have seen my glory and my miracles, which I did in Egypt and in the wilderness, and have tempted me now these 10 times, speaking of those 10 spies. Okay, they feared when they seen, all right, those Hamites in the land that the Lord promised us. Okay, they didn't have any faith. You see, it says, and have not hearkened to my voice. Surely they shall not see the land which I swear unto their fathers, neither shall any of them that provoke me see it. So the Lord promised that them niggas wouldn't see it for their unfaithfulness, man. Okay, that's the spirit of 2/3, a faithless generation. And they're not going to see, the glory of the Lord. They're not going to be a part of going into those chariots. They're not going to receive that glory. Okay? Of being changed at the twinkling of an eye. Coming down out of those chariots. To conquer the earth in righteousness. You see? They're not going to be a part of it. You see? They're going to have to be born later on down the line. Okay? Verse 24 says, but my servant Caleb, because he have another spirit. Okay? Caleb had another spirit and have followed me fully. You see? Him will I bring into the land whereunto he went, and his seed shall possess it. So Caleb, the Lord said he had another spirit. All right, the spirit to fully follow him. And he had that spirit to follow him through faith. To fully follow, Yahweh Bashim Al-Shai, the foundation of that is faith. Okay, and that's a gift, that's given from on high. And there's a spirit of Yahweh Shai has been resurrecting his elect. Okay, well, that spirit of faith is there. Okay, so that was the point. Just want to go into that Lord will, you brothers. All right, and you sisters edified once again. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to his younger brothers. And peace and blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect. Shalom.